On the night of September 7th, 1943, D.J. Brown, age 70, awoke to choking smoke inside his room in the Gulf Hotel in Houston, Texas. He tried to reach his friends who were crying for help, but couldn't because of the growing fire in the building. DJ would escape, but his friends didn't. They were some of the 55 men who died in the tragic Gulf Hotel fire. Welcome back to Fiery Tales, the YouTube channel where we explore some of the historic fires in U.S. history and the lessons we can learn from them. Now, the Gulf Hotel fire occurred in a 3-story hotel building that was located at the corner of Preston and Louisiana Streets near the bus station in downtown Houston, Texas. Now, during World War II, Houston, Texas was filled with a lot of transient workers coming in to work and fill spots in the important war industries that were growing in this community. The Gulf Hotel was a cheaper hotel, sometimes called a flop house, that was designed to hold them, other transient people who might be moving through the area, elderly, impoverished people who couldn't really find other places to stay except for the cheaper rooms available in the Gulf Hotel. Now, it was only for men, so no women were staying here. It was a 3-story building. The first floor was some shops. The second floor was rooms that were divided up by these thin wooden partitions that were being rented for 40 cents a night. These rooms had a bed. Sometimes the beds were filled by 2 men who were sharing a bed to save on rent. The third floor of the hotel was a common area where cots were utilized and were being rented for 20 cents a night. So you can tell it, despite the fact that it was brick construction, there was a lot of cheaply built wood interior. The rooms on the second floor were really cut up due to these wooden partitions. There was a lot of, the wood floor, wood stairs, a lot of wood finishing that would easily burn. Now, there were 2 fire escapes. These were both located on the same side of the building. There was a single interior staircase. Now, a few days before the fire, the hotel had actually been cited for not having working exit signs. The red exit signs. The bulbs were apparently burned out. And the fire department did say that this would be a contributing factor in the fire because men would get disoriented trying to get out of the building. But you can tell there's kind of a worst case scenario set up here. An overcrowded hotel filled with a lot of impoverished or handicapped individuals. A lot of these people were on crutches. A lot of them were elderly. The hotel apparently was not well taken care of, as evident by the exit signs. So it's kind of a worst case scenario that was set up here. Now, on the night of September 7th, 1943, the hotel register indicated at least 133 men were staying here. 87 had checked into one of the rooms, and the remainder were in cots on the 3rd floor. Now, night clerk Walter Chappell was on duty, and sometime around midnight, there was a report of a mattress fire in room 201. Now, he went to check it out and found a mattress smoldering from someone smoking, and poured a bucket of water on it, which he had probably done hundreds of times to mattresses that had caught on fire from people smoking. He and some of the occupants of the hotel then drug the linen and the mattress that they thought was out down the hallway and stuck it in a closet. This closet was later reported to be filled with things like insecticides, kerosene, and all types of other things, and also piles of linen. 30 minutes after this happens, Walter Chappell is called up to the 3rd floor for someone using a flashlight. He gets up there, he doesn't find anything, and he comes back down, and when he does, he finds that there's smoke and flames consuming the wall that separated the sleeping rooms from the lobby. So he immediately sounds the fire alarm and works to try to get people out. But by this time, the central staircase, which was the interior exit, was already blocked by fire, and that was the exit for the people to get out. And the fire exits quickly become overwhelmed on the side because you remember there's a lot of elderly people here in their 60s, 70s, 80s, a lot of them on crutches, and a lot of the first responders that show up, they see these people moving down these fire escapes very slowly on crutches or with some other disability, really bottlenecking the fire escapes. This fire burns very quickly through these thin wooden partitions and down the shellacked paneled hotel walls and floors, quickly spreading. And eventually, men that are trapped start jumping off the fire escapes. Then eventually, they start jumping out of the windows. Now, the fire is reported to the Houston Fire Department at 12:50 a.m. Now, the Houston Fire Department was actually founded in 1836 as a volunteer company. It went to all paid in 1893, and during World War II, it was actually suffering from manpower shortages, as were a lot of local fire departments, because many of the firefighters and other able bodied men had signed up to go fight in World War II. So they had formed an auxiliary fire department that was designed to help provide some additional manpower, but it didn't necessarily mean that they were fully staffed. Their central station was located only a few blocks away at Preston and Caroline Streets. So when the fire alarm was turned out, it only took them a few moments to get there. But when they left the station, Deputy Chief Grover Cleveland Adams, who was one of the first ones out, said they could already see the reflection of the fire against the sky. When they got there, the fire escapes were overwhelmed with these men trying to get out. They attempt to utilize ladders. They are able to get a couple people out with ladders, but the amount of fire that's coming out of the windows on this second floor, which is where the fire originated, is so great, and the heat is so great that the ladders are useless. They can't actually go up the ladders to get them in. They attempt to fight the fire through the windows with what may be called now a defensive or transitional attack. There's even reports that they're flowing water through the windows with men standing in them, trying to cool it off enough that they can get out. But unfortunately, very few of those men that are trapped in the windows escape, and in some cases even reported that the windows and stuff collapse on them while they're there waiting for rescue. Now, it takes 2 hours of this defensive operations or this exterior operations to be able to knock the fire down enough that they can get inside. And basically, what has happened is the entire hotel is gutted. And inside, they're going to find death and destruction, horrifying scenes of burned men. Eventually, 55 men do die in the fire. 2 from jumping were killed when they jumped out of either a third floor window or off of one of the fire escapes. 15 died later at hospitals from their injuries, and 38 were pulled out by firefighters from inside the gutted building. There were 30 other men who were injured. They and those 15 who died later were taken to either St. Joseph or Jefferson Davis Hospital, mainly by police and private cars because the ambulance service was quickly overwhelmed. This turned out to be the deadliest fire in Houston's history and one of the 5 deadliest hotel fires in 20th century America. However, the bad thing was it was obscured by war news. Thousands of men were dying in huge events around the world at the same time. So this hotel fire doesn't get the same press coverage as it might have in peacetime, especially in terms of like national press coverage. And it also doesn't get some of the same groundswell movements that we see from some other big fires. It's also obscured by some other big fires that happened, like the Coconut Grove fire that happened the year before. However, the residents of Houston are really impacted by this, especially because many of the men were poor, they didn't have any families, and they're unidentified. So there actually ends up being 23 unidentified people from the fire. And the residents get together and they pay for a huge funeral for them. They pay for the caskets for the men who were unable to afford their own caskets, either the unidentified ones or other individuals. And then there's this huge burial of 23 men at Houston South Park Cemetery. However, there is no memorial because during war, there wasn't really the materials or the funds, and later it's kind of forgotten about. Today, very few people know kind of the story of this Gulf Hotel fire. It really is a kind of a hidden part of Houston's history, and the hotel itself is actually located in the parking lot for the Houston Ballet. There was an attempt a little while ago to raise money for a memorial, but it doesn't appear that they were successful with that. So I hope you enjoyed this description of the Houston Gulf Hotel fire. I want to thank Wikipedia and several other websites that I'm going to list in the description for the photographs and for the materials that were used. And as always, if you like this, be sure to hit the like button, hit subscribe to get other historic fire descriptions that will be coming out about every week, and to catch up on some of the ones you may have missed. And if you have anything else you know about this fire, leave it in the comments or drop a question there, and I'll definitely try to get back with you. Thanks, and have a great day.